Well, here we are, another Saturday morning on the Radiati-IO, doing our garden show.
Yep.
Ken, this is this is number 1785 times we've been on this show. 1113 on this station, but
time keeps on ticking.
It just flips by like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and like we've always done right from day one, we're going to give the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
Well, I'm going to step out
Uh-oh.
of a box here.
Okay.
And tell people, and I know you're going to argue.
You're scaring me a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to suggest it's time to uncover your hybrid tea roses.
Wow.
I could get into trouble. However, I feel the worst of winter is over.
I think
you're
probably right.
The worst of winter is over. We can uncover our hybrid tea. As a matter of fact, Ken, leaving the cover on with this mild weather may not be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because they'll start to grow under
They'll
there.
They'll push too much.
Then you uncover them, and you got really tender white growth. And that, yes, not good.
Good
my
tip.
plant of the week is the Tradescantia zebrina Nanook.
Oh, yes.
Nanook, and I have one sitting right
There's
in front of Ken Salvail right now. A Nanook Tradescantia.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of this one you brought in, Ken?
I don't know yet. We have to look it up. It's a Tradescantia.
Tradescantia zebrina Kenneth.
Yeah, we're exchanging Tradescantias today.
Now, for those of you who don't know what a Tradescantia is, it is what commonly known as a wandering Jew.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ken, we had those green ones, the original green Tradescantia, crawling all under their benches in the garden center.
Yeah, they took off like a weed.
Yeah. There we go.
All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that it's time to get out and locate your tulips and give them a little spray of some deer repellent right now. As they just emerge, you'll see the little tips shooting up, and you just give that a little squirt of some deer repellent, and it'll coat that plant, and then when the deer come along to chomp them off, as they often do in the spring, it'll already have that distasteful taste and smell, and they won't touch them. So be one step ahead of those deer and get that deer repellent on now. All right, my plant of the week is the Peperomia group, which is a lovely little collection of houseplants. And it's not all that little, actually. There's about 1,000 species of different types of peperomias, and they're just a real fabulous little houseplant. They're something that just survives almost anything, easy to grow, bright light or low light. They're typically better in kind of low light conditions. They're an epiphytic plant that lives on rotting wood in the tropical rainforest where they live, and they're super easy to propagate from cuttings and from seeds. So there you go, the Peperomia group. Give them a try. If you don't have a houseplant, they might be an easy one to try, and there's certainly a lot to choose from. So that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com, and also we're doing webinars again today, as we do most weekends. And today's webinar is on fruit trees, all about fruit trees and the different types and how to prune them and take care of them, as well as just after that. That's at 1 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock today, we're doing water features and how to deal with water features. So how they're built, how they're constructed, and sort of what we have to look for as potential problems and troubleshooting and that sort of thing. So, yeah, really fun. Participate in some webinars.
Well, those webinars today should be very fruitful and wet.
Yes, exactly. Particularly.
No, this is good, Ken.
Yep.
Water features, becoming very, very popular. And they can be huge, monstrous waterfalls and water feature types, or they can be just a little bubbling rock.
Yep. Or they could be just one of the ones you buy at the garden center and you just sit it on your deck and plug it in. Yep. Yeah, it can be super simple or super complicated, whatever the individual likes, but they'll give that beautiful sound of trickling water.
Oh yeah, that's the nice thing about it. Joe Mercer he ran into one at a garage sale, one of these wall-mounted water features, and of course it's made of fiberglass or something, but it's really got patina on it, right?
Yeah.
It looks. And so what the story is that Donna and I were in Italy, and we were visiting Pompeii, and we stumbled over this thing. So I snuck back at night, and I dug it out.
Mm-hmm.
I found an underground railway in Italy that took this monument, this water feature, to a ship that was meant to go across the Atlantic.
Wow.
It landed in New York. This is true, Ken. And I'm just kidding. No, it's a fun story to tell because it looks just like somebody dug it out of Pompeii.
Wow.
It's fabulous.
And yet it's not made of real rock.
Not made of real. Don't tell anybody.
No, okay. Don't
tell anybody because this is a great story to tell. And you know, if I could be telling the story and somebody say, Ken Salvail told me that's all crap.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry for the language.
Yeah, you might hear of it.
Sorry for the language. Anyway, we're going to, I guess are we going to the lines? We're going to the phone lines? We probably are. Just hang on. I got to find out.
Nope.
Oh, Ariel's on the line. Good morning, Ariel. I'm sorry, I couldn't find my phone here, and that's how we communicate.
Good morning. I you know what? I'm looking through my journal, which doesn't look anything like the ladies' journal that you talk about so much.
Right.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And she's probably got it all neatly. You know, the older I get, I look at my writing and I just, wow, it's abysmal. Anyway.
Should be a doctor.
I'm looking at my hellebores. And the little blooms are starting to open up. Should I go out and cut off all those leaves out there now?
Yeah, that's what we do now. You know, once the brunt of winter's over and they start to putting on, you know, just that sign of them putting on a show, it's time to go out and remove all the old leaves and just leave those
that's
flowers.
going in my journal, Ken.
Yeah, oh yeah. And this year we're probably about, you know, a week or two ahead of a normal season, at least.
Yeah.
You know, at least.
Yeah, the crocuses are coming up as well.
Yeah. So we would normally be around the 20th of March, I would say, would be sort of more average. So when you do put it in a journal, mention the date and the year and the outside temperatures because that's
good idea.
Yeah.
Another question, which is really off the wall. You know, we have a lot of these mallard ducks that hang out on our property here, and they're in my garden with their bills digging down in there, and they're out in the lawn digging down. What are they eating?
Well, they eat vegetation of some sort, so they're vegetarians mostly, and so they're probably just eating the grass or the roots. Or
I hope they're not eating my plants out there.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Could be. Yeah.
Duck food.
Yeah.
Ow.
Do you have any duckweed out there?
No, absolutely not.
Well, there you go. So,
well, can you imagine? You can imagine ducks when they duck in the water and go down, and start feeding off the bottom. Right, they're feeding off the bottom of the lake.
Yes,
they're eating all sorts of stuff down there, and so they're it's like they're feeding off the bottom, only they're above water.
I hope they're not out there eating my plant because they're digging around some of my plants.
Well, maybe, better keep a close eye. Do you have a telephoto lens? You can zoom in on them and see what are they eating?
Well, I have tried that, but they eat it too fast. Whatever goes in, they dig their bills down in there and they get their tongues, I guess, and they gobble it up.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep. I'll let you know if I see any plant damage.
Keep us informed, Ariel.
Thank you.
Thanks, dear.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye.
Yeah, it's always pleasant to hear from Ariel, and she's always got a story to tell. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, then we're going to do Judy. Good morning, Judy.
Good morning.
Oh, no, not Judy.
Oh.
Edie. Sorry, wrong E. Hi, Edie.
Hi there.
Hello.
I'm looking for some help with liverwort.
Yeah. It is a tough one at times. It comes in typically from, in plants and things that we purchase often because it's a problem in nurseries because of the continuous water supply. And so in nurseries we have to water basically every single day, and the plants are always in this potential situation of drying out. So they don't want the plants to dry out. They're really watering them. And often these plants, this is actually like a type of it's almost like halfway between a fern and a moss.
Okay.
And so they will live in these conditions where they need to be pretty much constantly moist. And so in the nurseries, they form, because we're watering so much, there's these muddy areas and things where the water tends to sit, and that's where the liverwort gets started, and it spreads by spores, similar to like other ferns and things. And so that spreads, and then anywhere it's moist, they'll start to grow. And so The only things that you can do is you try to create an environment that they don't like. So they don't like plant areas that dry out too much.
Uh-huh.
So what I would do is start by physically removing them. They're just sitting on the surface. And you just physically remove them from the surface. And then you apply a nice layer of mulch on there. So some sort of ideally like a compostable mulch that has, some nice black compost in it. When you have a nice rich compost, that's something that they don't really like. They don't like rich conditions. And it's also because it's chunky. It's not the environment they want. They want like clay, like a flat layer, right?
Sand
So
even.
yes, areas that would be not constantly moist. So things that would make it easy to dry out.
Before we take a break, and I want to put my twist on this, okay?
Yep.
My goal in life is to help people embrace moss, liverworts, lichens, and small ferns. You start embracing those and loving them like I do, then it's not an issue. I'm just saying, what harm does a liverwort do? You just don't like it there, do you? Just don't want it there.
I just thought it was growing, and it's spreading all along my fence.
It's very pretty.
They choke out plants eventually. Like they'll grow around them, so you have to keep them pulled back.
Yeah, but they're very pretty. It's a nice ground cover. Better than a weed. I don't call them a weed.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out. Food for thought.
Sounds
Love
like it's
the
all
liverwort.
attitude.
Love the liverwort.
You like it. You don't mind it, and it's not going to spread through the grass and everything.
Not
So when
gonna
you-
do.
No,
well,
I
it
don't-
wouldn't go into the grass.
No.
Moss will go in the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again.
So when you get it all dug out, Don will give out
yeah,
his address.
Yeah, you bring me some.
Well, I've already taken it out, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone now.
Yeah.
I took it out last fall.
Right.
So just leave it and see what happens?
Well,
It's
just
up
in
to
the
you.
mouth,
I don't
or-
want to convince you to love liverwort. So I'm
Right.
just saying that for my mind, they don't do any harm.
No, they don't really. But the whole thing is you create an environment that they don't like. And they don't like environments where the surface is all lumpy and bumpy and up and down. So that's where when you put mulch on the surface, like, say, even a bark or like
Nature's
a Nature's Gold
Gold
product
mulch,
that's
yep.
chunky. And, they don't like to grow in those conditions. So they probably won't grow in those conditions at all.
Okay.
And then always let the plants dry between waterings because plants, and over the winter, that's when mosses and these particular plants, the liverworts and things, really spread and they're really aggressive through the winter months when it's moist and cool. But when it gets hot, they kind of slow down. They don't like the heat. They don't like the dryness. So just keep that in mind as you're going through the season, as you just sort of create an environment they don't like, which is really letting the plants dry out between waterings and putting a kind of a rough mulch around them.
Okay. Thank you
Oh,
very
Edie,
much.
thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Okay.
Great
Bye-bye.
discussion.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a short break and invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I. We'll be back with more AM 1150. Well, the other day I said I first noticed dusk happening. Mm-hmm. I'm really appreciating dusk now, Ken. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 8th decade. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 8th decade on Earth. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time I recognized, or maybe I recognized it before, but just thought about the fact that we now have, as the days get longer, we have longer period of transition between day and night. In the wintertime, you walk outside, take the garbage out or something, come back in and say, oh, I forgot to put something in the garbage can. You go back out, it's dark.
Do you think it's just your attention deficit just concentrating?
It could be.
So there used to be a bird or a kid on a bicycle, and it would. Now it's just the sky.
It could be that. It could be that. I mean, I wouldn't doubt. I mean, how things are going here at my 8th decade. I know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think attention deficit for me is definitely increasing. Like
Yeah.
it's starting to really take off. I blame it on the cell phones because we have this constant. You're never away from the screen. In business anyway, you're constantly. You just go. All the time, mm-hmm. And I'm sure it stimulates your mind. Or your mind has always got to be stimulated. And then.
Well, it does. I mean, I'm constantly going to the cell phone for. There was a program on the radio not long ago about libraries and how they're so important and whatever. Then you go there, it opens up a whole new world to you and everything. Yep. They're kind of describing the internet. The only problem with the internet, I mean, the positives are you get movies, you get stuff, you get really, Yeah. The only problem is you just never know what to believe.
Yeah,
I mean, who knows? Look I am so enjoying the fact I uncovered our water, our little bird bath. Right. My sister gave me last year for our new garden. I uncovered it. Mm-hmm. Ken, the birds are just having a ball. They haven't had a bath all winter. They're starting to smell. And they're all in there having a bath, cleaning up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a hot tub party.
They love a bird bath.
Yeah.
And that's where when you get a little water feature, like anybody who doesn't have a water feature, but as soon as you get a water feature, the birds come. Yep. It's one of the first things. Wow, they're in there, they're jumping in and they're bathing, and you're going like, wow, that water's been recirculating for months. It's really getting a bit skanky, but yet they still like to bathe in it. It's like it's pretty interesting.
My favorite thing, and I learned this years and years ago, a drop or two of hydrogen peroxide in the bird bath or your water feature.
Keeps the birds away?
Oh, yeah. No, keeps the clean, algae out of there. And it helps with any toxins. I mean, let's face it, we've got to be careful with the birds. I mean, they can get diseases just like we can.
Yeah, my understanding was, and I can be corrected any time, but was that your bird bath needed to be washed out and cleaned every day. Yeah. So that was what our bird bath sits outside, and it's like when I go out, I check the plants, water the plants, and I swish it right out, completely clean, fill it up to the top, and I always put a rock or something in the middle so the birds have something to stand on, And then that was a Dan Bruce tip as well, and it works. They love to stand on that rock and have their bath and whatnot. But so keeping that water fresh was one of the key important things. And if you let it sit and sit and sit, they don't. They detect that it's getting stagnant, I think, and they don't come back.
I've got two bird baths. One is maybe an inch and a half deep, okay? Mm-hmm. But the one my sister gave us is very shallow. I'll bet you it's at its depth. It might be 3/4 of an inch deep, maybe an inch maximum, but 3/4 I'm thinking. And as a matter of fact, when you fill it, you're splashing it off the edge. You can never really fill it to the brim, Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is kind of silly, having a bird bath. It's only this deep. They love it. You got to make sure you keep it filled, and but it's not a deep bird bath.
Do you think they prefer the shallower one?
Yes.
They do?
Yeah. They go there more than they do the deep one.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Well, there you
go. Some of them just don't like deep water. They're afraid they're going to drown, I think.
Well, who knows?
Hey, guess who we got on the line here? I heard a ding, and I went down. Dominic. Now, there's only one Dominic that I know of.
Yeah.
Morning.
How is two fine Kelowna gentlemen doing this morning?
Quarantine gentlemen, did you say?
Quarantine gentlemen.
I was thinking about you guys this morning when I was having my breakfast. I had some toast, some butter,
garlic,
and I sliced. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I got to phone in and tell them that. Still time to plant the garlic. As long as the ground's not muddy, you can plant it, and you'll just harvest it a little later in the season.
Right. So, do you think it just makes a difference of, say, beginning of July to the end of July?
Yeah.
And they probably, it seems like the ones you do in the fall really get fat. Like they seem to get a little better, eh? Do you think?
Yeah, but sometimes what happened when we had our fruit stand on Gordon, we'd plant sometimes in the spring to have the fresher garlic longer in the season.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
So when we were braiding the garlic, we braid the first one we picked at July, and then a month later you would have fresher braids. Mm-hmm. So one reason we did that. But the garlic is just I don't know. I eat it all day long, breakfast, lunch, supper sometimes. So it's good.
Hey Dominic, do you like hot stuff, like hot pepper stuff?
Yep.
Yep. I have my shake. I just ground up all my hot peppers from 2 years ago, actually, because I've run out of my shake. So I thought, oh, man, I had all these hot peppers all dried in jars. So I ground them all up, and I you should have. I wish Donna could have taken a picture, but she wasn't at home at the moment. And I'm in the backyard. I got my white. No, actually, what I did was I put a garbage bag over my head, not over my head, but cut a hole for the head to go through, and arms. So it was a garbage bag protection. I had the rubber gloves on, and I had my toque. I put my toque and my full-fledged greenhouse gas mask on, and I'm out there because you have to if you're grinding this stuff up, man, and you get it up your nose, it lasts a long time.
I know, but people got to remember that an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
My philosophy is a clove of garlic a day keeps the doctor away.
Perfect. Now, do you have friends?
Some. They've had garlic
good thing
before they come over.
This 6 foot social distancing really works for garlic eaters.
No, sometimes it doesn't matter depending on how much garlic you eat, but it's good. It's a good spice. But on the hot peppers, we had some a few years ago. Mrs. Pendarker, her husband was the school superintendent here.
Yes.
They used to come buy the green chilies from us all the time. And I'm going to try to make it this year because I keep forgetting to do it. Yeah. They ground up the green chilies when they were still green.
Okay.
And they put olive oil in there, and they made a paste like on top of bread. Oh, my God. It was so good. And so I used to give her lots of peppers, and I said, I'm not going to charge you, but you got to give me that spread in return. So it worked out good. But those chilies are very flavorful. I don't like when they're really, really hot, some varieties, but those ones there in the oil were good.
That's what separates you from me, buddy. I like
it real hot.
Oh, as hot as you can get her, boy, I tell you.
Yeah, his peppers. You've got all the ghost peppers.
Yeah, I got and hot. And I put
hot. They don't even enjoy those.
I put the pepper in my soup. I put pepper on my eggs. I put pepper everything. The only thing I haven't tried it on is ice cream.
Okay, but here's what two things you have to try. One, when you have your bacon and eggs in the morning, have a glass of red wine with it. It works so good. The wine and the
now
bacon,
we know why Dominic is such an interesting person. He's drinking wine for breakfast. Come on.
Try it. It's good.
I think I will. Well, Dominic told me I could do this.
The other thing you get is you get real good vanilla ice cream, and you drizzle balsamic vinegar over it. Try it. It's awesome.
Okay.
Okay, have a good
day,
Thanks,
Dominic. We love you. Take care.
Thanks for calling in. Bye-bye.
That's Dominic Ramponi. He's an expert on growing stuff.
Yeah,
it's great.
All kinds of things.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell him, too, quickly before because we've got to go back to the phone lines. We do have to take a break, all that stuff. The Santina cherries that we canned from the farm, the Dendy farm up on where Dominic works. They're fabulous. Ken, they're solid. They're firm. Nothing like canned cherries with the pits still in them. Just like you're taking them off the tree.
Yeah, he was recommending that, leaving the pits in.
Keep the pit in them. Yep, you bet.
Cool.
Okay, Amber, are we going to the phone lines for one more call before we take a break? Can we do that or no, yes or no? We're going to take a break, okay, because we do have Dan Bruce coming up. Of course, we've got Dan Bruce coming up. I forgot all about Dan. Sorry, Dan. But you are on as soon as we come back from this break. We'll be back. We're back with you, Don Burnett, Ken Salvail, and now we have Dan Bruce on the line. Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
That's good.
Nice to hear from you.
Beautiful weather.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's. I know that spring is here because I was actually in the greenery the other day.
Oh,
there you go.
And that just tells me that it's springtime, and they've got quite a range of stuff up there.
Yeah, they do a good job.
And because it's spring, one of the next things that's going to happen is the Forsythia season.
Yes.
It's a really common plant, but I think it's one of the best.
Very good plant. Now, is this tying in with you're going to talk about Mr. Forsyth that it was named after?
Don, you're so perceptive.
I know.
It blows me away.
I kind of thought
Reading
that
between
because
the lines.
I remember somebody said to me, "I have a Forsythia," and I said, "Well, his name wasn't Mr. Forsyth."
No, it was William Forsyth.
Here we go.
And he was born in Aberdeen in 1737.
Wow.
And he is quite a character.
Yeah.
Like so many of these Scottish plant-oriented people, he started out in the Royal Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh, and then moved south into better weather.
Yeah.
Came down to London, and he was much involved with the Chelsea Physic Garden, which is something that we will talk about in the more distant future. That was a place in London that was specifically concerned with growing medicinal plants, or plants that at least were thought to be medicinal.
Was it tied in with a hospital?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Anyway, William Forsyth had quite a varied career, and he's definitely a self-made man. I mean, he had no wealthy patrons or anything like that. He just did it his own self. The Forsythia was named after him, and whether he grew it or not, I don't know, but he probably did. One thing a bit of a scam that he got into that rather damaged his reputation, he came up with this sort of potion that he claimed would cure diseases in oak trees, diseases that spoilt the wood. And amazingly, he persuaded the Navy board to pay him a considerable chunk of money to develop, produce this mixture. Why the Navy board? Well, clearly because the Navy were the greatest consumers of oak. The shipbuilding.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
But it turned out that Forsyth's potion was no more use than sugar water.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so Forsythia, there's, I think, about 7 different, maybe 8 different species. They're all from the Far East, except one that I think is native in southern Europe. And interestingly, the Americans at the Arnold Arboretum did a lot of work on that genus and produced some garden hybrids. One of them was named Beatrix Verand.
Okay.
And some people out there might have heard of her.
Was she an empress?
No, she was an American landscape architect.
Okay.
She worked in the States in various places, including the gardens of the White House. She went to England, did some work there, and in fact a garden very close to where we used to live in Devonshire was laid out by her. And there's a hawthorn, which is quite a spectacular hawthorn that's named in her honor. It has the largest thorns of any hawthorn.
Ooh,
Yikes.
Look, Dan, I'm never going to look at a Forsythia the same way after this. Now, they named the Forsythia after him. Did he go and bring some of them into England from Asia?
No, he did not travel. He didn't do any traveling. As far as we know, he didn't do any traveling.
So the poor guy who brought it into England didn't get it named after him, or her?
No. But then a lot of these people who went out collecting plants, brought back not just one or two, but hundreds.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so somebody would have been honored with a name in there someplace.
Yeah. So he embraced the Forsythia, and so they named the darn thing after him.
I would assume that he grew Forsythia.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, with a lot of these people, they didn't keep detailed records of what exactly they grew, when, and where. But and sometimes, of course, the records got lost, so the information is spotty.
So, okay, so we're talking about, what was his name again, his first name?
William
Forsyth. Okay, Scottish botanist. Was he a botanist?
Well, you would have to describe him as such, I guess, yes.
Okay, and...
he was born in 1737. He died in 1804. So, this is really before the academic institutions listed botany as a subject, for study. Most of this work was done by what academics nowadays would disparagingly call amateurs.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, like I say, I'm never going to look at a Forsythia the same way again. I knew it was named after a fellow named Forsyth, but I didn't know anything about him. And William Forsyth. There you go.
Well, the whole thing, as you do more and more checking and research, you find that you go around in circles because going back to Beatrix Ferrand, her brother-in-law was Livingston Ferrand, who was an anthropologist, and he did a lot of the early anthropology and recording of First Nations cultures in British Columbia.
Oh,
interesting.
Wow.
And, of course, Beatrix shows up yet again, working with Frederick Law Olmsted on the laying out and organization of Central Park in New York. And those listeners with great memories will remember that Frederick Law Olmsted is the ancestor of John Walden, who was the founding secretary of Fintry, the Friends of Fintry Society.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
So,
interesting.
All roads lead to Fintry.
Yeah, all roads
amazing.
lead to Fintry.
Isn't that a lot of the I remember you were telling me about how that when you go to Scotland and other areas nearby, but there's many things there that have the same names that we hear in the Okanagan.
Yeah.
And we're actually named after those places. Is that right? Like Okanagan is
no, Gushiken is. Gushiken is named after that kind of word, yeah.
Yes.
But Okanagan, I believe the name Okanagan is a First Nations word, is it not, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is certainly true. And in Scotland, there are at least 2 different Fintries.
Okay. Dan, always a pleasure to have you call in and give us a little insight into some history and those good old Scottish botanists. And yeah, always a pleasure.
If you check out the Fintry website, you can see the one of the latest Octagon newsletters explains, talking about names, the real origin of the name of Canada, our country.
Oh, nice. And you can talk to Fintry or get a word out to them if you have any queries or questions or want to contact them. info@fintry.ca.
That is correct.
There you go. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning, and we will hopefully see you again next week for more insight into Scottish botanists.
Well, I may not be visible, but I'll be audible.
Audible, yes. Like the Audubon guy you are.
Yes.
Okay. Take care, buddy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, we're right at break time.
Fascinating.
I believe we should take a break before we go to the lines here and talk to... we're going to talk to Jack, but we should take this break first. Jack, we'll be right with you after we take the short break. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. You got that, and we are back with you, and we're going to run through some phone calls here because we got a few of them on there. We're going to go for Jack is on the line. Good morning, Jack.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Don.
Hey.
Morning.
Our kids used to play softball or t-ball together, Don. A little red-headed girl and my son.
Oh, yeah.
Many years ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I used to visit you and your dad and your staff, picking up all my annual plants, and now I got to go to the greenery because you don't have it there on Ethel anymore.
Yeah, well, Jack, those are great old memories, and
yeah,
I recognize you right off the bat.
And
yep.
Dominic, of course, fits in the same thing.
Yep.
I met him the same way.
Yeah.
Nice to hear he has garlic and wine for breakfast. He hasn't changed.
No, he hasn't changed a bit, has he? And now I know why he's the character he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were mentioning earlier that you're in your 8th decade. I'm
yes.
almost in my 9th. I'm reading a very good book. You might want to, if you're still worried about dusk and how quickly it comes sometimes. It's called Keep Sharp by Sanjay Gupta, How to Build a Better Brain. So just
well, there you go.
You then.
Are you telling me I need a better brain?
Well,
Come on now, Jack.
As we get older. Your dad was sure sharp when he was in his 90s.
He was.
Anyway, I'm an annual guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've got lots of roses, but I love these annuals. And I was the one last year that phoned in and talked about those beautiful planters that the city has in the main streets during the summertime.
Yes.
You never see the guy out watering them, or feeding them. They never seem to drop.
Nope.
And it encouraged a bit of discussion. I noticed that some other phone calls came in. But I think you mentioned that the fellow from the city, it was a closely guarded secret. He wasn't going to give out any idea where he got the plants from and how he grew them, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's my point. I decided I'd get on the computer, which I don't do very often, and I found these, what are they called, million bells?
Yeah.
That's
million
bells.
Yeah.
And so I sent away for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it took about 6 to 8, maybe 9 weeks to get it. It came from Latvia, okay? That's up in the Baltic.
Okay.
Estonia, Latvia, and the other one. Well, I opened up the package, and I'll tell you, I don't know whether it's a joke or not, but it said there's 100 seeds in the package, and there could be 1,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
They are so small.
I know. Yeah.
Well, how do you grow those darn things?
Well, here's a quickie story before, because we got another phone call coming in. But my grandfather ordered his first petunia seeds, and Dad remembers them coming in, and him these petunia seeds filled up a little tiny corner of the package and they were supposed to be 1,000 seeds, and they just filled up this little tiny corner. So Grandpa, on the kitchen table on a piece of white paper, counted these seeds in the package to make sure he didn't get gypped. Anyway, okay, well, I'm going to say this, that one of the tricks that Ken and I used to do with begonia seeds, for instance, is to mix the seed up into some sand or some vermiculite or something and stir that all together with some seed, and then you put the sand or the vermiculite in the seed tray, and that helps spread them out.
Okay,
yeah,
well that's an idea, because I tell you, I've got a little tweezers here, and I mean it's like fly crap. I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
I know,
it's actually tinier. Yeah,
it's a good analogy right there.
My neighbors laugh at me because they are really small.
Yeah, the key is also to remember is that these small seeds, they need light to germinate. So if you bury them,
don't bury them.
They don't grow.
Yeah.
So really important, like as Don's mentioning about the sand, is that you literally put it 3 grains thick over the whole surface, and it needs to sit on the surface, and then it's very light moisturizing. So what I always do when I'm seeding, especially tiny seeds, is I always moisten the soil first and sort of flatten it out, and then apply my seeds.
And then mist.
Then use a mister to mist them. So like a spray nozzles. Because if they get buried, they often won't germinate. So just a good
well,
tip
I'm
on
anxious
that
to
one.
see what comes for those million bells, Jack. Let us know.
I am too.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for taking my call.
Great to talk to you, man.
Yeah,
Bye.
nice,
Take
nice
care.
to hear.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we're going to get one more call in before the break here. And Eva, thanks for joining us, Eva.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Excellent.
How's everything in the garden?
Everything is great in the gardens. How'd you know I was out in the garden yesterday?
Oh, I know, because I remember Ethel Street. I was there most of the time buying things and going around and this and that. Anyway, a couple of questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
For the blackberries, I have lots of blackberries, and they are fine till first crop I picked. After that, I get worms in them.
Yeah. That's the ever-loving spotted-winged Drosophila that is causing that. I don't know, Ken. What's your answer to that? Just pick them all and make sure they're buried or in a garbage bag out. Make sure you pick them all, Eva, for sure. I think that would be our first suggestion.
Make sure they all go away every year.
Yeah,
and relatively early.
Yeah, as soon as you recognize there's worms in them, harvest them, get them into a bag, and put them in the garbage.
Yeah, and using insect screening, if you can get nice fine insect screen over those fruiting branches, would definitely help as well.
Okay.
So,
but there is anything that I can spray in the spring?
No, there's nothing. It's a bad one out there. Now, the interesting thing is, you had these last year, eh?
Yes.
The interesting thing is, Eva, that I was devastated about 4 or 5 years ago because I found them on my kiwis, and I thought, oh, kiwis are so great. They don't have any insect problems. Yeah. And now I got them into my kiwis. But you know what? They've been clean for the last couple of years, so I'm just thinking this scourge of spotted winged Drosophila may be waning a bit, and maybe this cold winter, maybe that cold blast we had when everything was starting to kind of come alive a bit, and then bango, you got that cold blast, that may curtail them. So just keep, the whole idea with trying to control or manage any of these things is vigilance. Watch them, and as you know, when the worms, when you really examine them, and when you start seeing the evidence of a maggot in there, harvest the whole crop and get rid of it.
Okay.
Because that way you're going to sort of stop it in its tracks. Because if you leave that stuff, I got worms and just leave them for the birds, whatever, they perpetuate. That's what perpetuates the problem.
Okay.
Okay?
Wow. Okay, second question is, I have 6 spruce, which I purchased at Violent Nursery, and planted them, I would say, 10 years ago.
Yep.
They were really growing good, and everything was good till last fall. Now I see on the branches little yellow needles falling off.
These are spruce?
Spruces, yeah.
Spruce, yeah. What variety of spruce do you know?
It's silver.
Silver spruce?
I would say ordinary.
It's like a blue spruce.
Yeah, blue spruce.
Yeah, there's a fungus. If you look very, very closely where those yellow needles are defoliating, look for little black fruiting bodies, they're called. Black fruiting bodies.
Specks.
Little specks. And that will indicate that you've got, there is a fungal problem there. These little
fungus.
Yeah.
There's another thing, too, which is a needle miner. And that's where
sounds like a hockey player.
Yeah, the leaves, the little needles fall off, and they'll turn sort of orangey or yellowy.
Yes.
But each one, you sort of make sure you grab a little collection of them, and then split them open and see if they're hollow inside, and then you know.
Eva, I hate to cut everybody off here, but we're right on the post. We got to leave you. Thank you, dear.
Yep, there is. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hit the post. We're going to go, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, here we go. Look at the sunshine, Ken. It's a beautiful day out there. I don't know what the temperature is going to be today, but probably double digits. And,
I would say.
Yep, it's just climbing up there. The greenhouse, the stuff in the greenhouse is just popping right now. I just go out there and you can see it growing. My tomato plant, it puts on an inch or two, a good 2 or 3 inches a day right now, putting it on. And I've got four trusses formed for tomatoes down below. Ooh. The tomatoes actually formed. Most of them are blossoms yet, but
so these are.
I'm going to have a crop of tomatoes this spring that you wouldn't believe. Probably, I'm aiming for middle of May. I might be over exuberant about that, but
if the weather's decent, because it is about that. When you get those hot days, those plants just leap forward.
Yeah,
get that sun shining through there. I know our geodome. We've got our geodesic growing dome, and it's we just got the benches constructed. So now we're starting to put plants in bit by bit, and it's going to be just a blast. It's going to be great to get that thing going.
Well, yeah, it's I was in a lady's property yesterday, and she had this cute little 6x8 greenhouse. And I said, I said, what a cute little greenhouse. It's got benches, it's got stuff. And she said, I just don't use it much because it's so hot in the summer. Well, a little greenhouse like that, maybe the summer isn't when you should be using it.
No, right now.
Right now is when you should be using it.
Yep.
I mean, that's just a tiny little electric heater in there will keep the frost out.
Oh, yeah.
You can start your plants right now in that greenhouse. So if you've got a little 6x8 greenhouse,
and in a cold frame that's even tinier, like a cold frame can be just about anything, you can keep that warm with just a little heated cable. You can keep the frost out, and a lot of plants don't mind a little bit of frost at night. So we talk about cold crops, and those cold crops are ready to go right now. The conditions are right to get them out, and just a little cover at night is really all you need. And so make a little makeshift lid of some sort with a little bit of plastic on it, and you're good to go. It really doesn't take much. It doesn't cost very much. I know some people, we've all seen it, I think, in the gardening biz where you find old windows, and people will just make a makeshift frame, even just a box, and they'll put the window over top of the box, and they get the plant started in there. Yeah. And if you go to the Greenery or Bylands or any of the garden centers and pick up some plants, ideal to keep them in that cold frame. Yeah.
Open it up in the daytime, enjoy them, let the plants get used to being outside.
Just
close them up.
Separate those warm-loving plants. Keep them in the house. Yep. The tomato plants, the eggplants, the peppers, those have to stay in for quite a while, unless you have a greenhouse. But you still got to have heat in that greenhouse for those plants. They don't like it below 10 degrees Celsius.
Ken, we've got Sheila joining us. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In the fall, I phoned you regarding our lilac bushes, and you determined that we probably had the weevil on biting the edges of the leaves. We applied a product called Weevolution, and as we applied the product, we realized that the weevils had spread to our clematis and our honeysuckle.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, when do we reapply this product?
Yeah, great question and great idea. I would say that it's all about soil temperature. So we just need to wait until the earth warms up a bit, and then you're good to go.
Okay.
And I would say, like, this year, it's usually it's not usually earlier than, like, the 1st of May sort of thing, first week of May.
Okay.
And it's just more or less that soil temperature. So if you had maybe, say, the clematis or one of the plants is on the south side of the house and it gets really nice and toasty warm there, well, maybe that earth will warm up much quicker. So that one you could apply a bit earlier. And if you had other plants that were a little shady or whatever, you'd do them a little bit later.
Right.
But it's all about soil temperature because the nematodes really don't like to get colder than about 6 or 7 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Right? So, it could be a while yet, but a soil thermometer is useful for sure. You can just push it into the soil and check.
Okay, I can do that, yes.
Yeah, and then you're good to go. And you do one application, then wait probably maybe another week or two and do a second application.
Okay.
And it's more or less just to make sure you have a good population. And remember to always water them in with nice tepid water.
Right.
And what was the name of that product?
Weevolution.
Weevolution, yeah. Because is that like Grub Out?
Yeah.
We had trouble finding it. We had to phone around, and we ended up getting it. But the first product we brought home had instructions for grass, so we've been sold the wrong product. And there was we took it back and then got the right product. So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's a bit of time-consuming, and it's not cheap, but it's better than losing all your plants.
Right, yeah. and at some point in time, that balance might just kind of get so that you don't have the issues much anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, we're not sure where it came from because I've always had a healthy perennial garden, but it could have been a neighbor's plant or maybe a different plant that I introduced to the garden. So.
Yeah, they hang out with conifers a lot, like the pines, the local pines family.
Right.
So if you have pines in the neighborhood, you might find that you might see a population.
Okay. Well, thanks for the advice. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Well,
and Sheila,
luck.
just on a side note, Elmer Fudd had weevil problems.
I know.
His was Wegwas. His was a widow Wegwas weevil on the woad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good one, Don.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, boy.
The Don and Ken comedy show.
I know. Well, why not? My dad always said, if you can't make people laugh, what's the point? I don't know.
Well, your dad was a comedian too.
He just loved to make people laugh.
Yeah, and he'd tell those stories that were totally like out there, and you'd be listening and just like paying attention, and then right at the end, he's like, it's got some joke at the end.
Well, I remember my brother-in-law was selling hats, these novelty hats, and he brought one into the garden center one time with this big, huge Canadian beaver on the front of the hat.
Yeah,
big beaver head, right? Dad loved that thing so much. He wore it for a couple of days at the garden center with all the public and everything, and everybody laughed when they saw it and everything. Al and I were flabbergasted. I said, Dad, come on.
It's embarrassing, Dad.
You're 80 years old. You're walking around with a beaver on your head, like...
That's a true Canadian hat.
People did love it. People like to see that. Yeah. So getting back to my Tradescantia, that was my plant of the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be called Zebrina pendula. That was I've just been doing a little research on it.
Yep.
It's a species of spiderwort. Now, the word wart just means plant, right?
It means medicinal.
Oh, it does. Medicinal. I thought
doesn't mean
plant.
it's medicinal. It just at some point somebody thought it was medicinal, so they gave it the name.
Spiderwort.
It's really a common name.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the other? One common name is Wandering Jew, but what's the other common name, Ken? It's a quiz for you because you're on the spot.
Common name?
Another common name for Tradescantia.
Creeping Jenny or something like that. No?
It's called an inch plant.
Oh, an inch plant, because each of the joints are an inch apart? Is that what
That's how they formed the inch. It wasn't the thumb on people's fingers, on people's hands. It wasn't that. Everybody thinks, it was
the Tradescantia.
It's the Tradescantia because there's an inch between each node.
So they say.
Well, that one's about right. Anyway, well, actually, when the Tradescantia gets bigger, the inch gets longer. So I don't know if that's going to work.
No, you know what we should do, though, is just we should go back to that question about the spruce tree. Because we had to cut it off really quick there right at the 9 o'clock. And I was talking about the spruce needle miner, which is a small insect that burrows in and hollows out. It mines out each needle. So whenever you get those needles dropping, you always check. There's a tiny hole at the base of each needle, but you can split them open carefully, and you'll see that they're filled with like a sawdusty material. And if you find that, well, then what you do is you research spruce needle miner, and it'll tell you what to do, and you can control them. And sometimes they just come and go. They'll get a bad year and then a good year. So if it's not the fungus issue, which you were talking about, which really doesn't have any cure, there's not a really cure for that. It's just weather conditions and whatnot. And it's not usually deadly. So that's the thing. Either of those are not deadly.
Ken, sounds like a hockey player to me. Needle miner. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to the phone lines because we got Phil phoning in. Phil, good morning.
Hello,
good
Phil.
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you this morning, Phil?
Good. Can you hear me clear?
I can hear you as clear as a bell.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. A lot of questions, but I'll probably answer them all in one. Do you know, and I'm sure you do, those veggie pods that you can buy, which are upright with a steel frame that you put 4 containers on and plant in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're like, they have lights. Is that the type? Lights in them, or are they?
Well, yeah, I'll just give you a quick overview. That I just got it, so I just had a couple of questions. It has a cover on it that you can pull down. Mm-hmm. It kind of looks like an old chuck wagon sort of thing, mm-hmm. but you pull it down if you want during the day. Mm-hmm. Two questions about this. At the bottom, there's probably about 3 or 4 inches where you can put water in. Mm-hmm. Then you put the soil in, and they have a valve there which will drain the water. Question is, do you put when I'm putting it in, do I put the water in first so I got a base of water there and then put the soil in? The second question is, if I do that, how do I keep that reservoir full? Do I simply just soak the soil totally until it starts to drain out, during the course of the summer? Yeah. That's my question.
Here's a quick answer here because we've got to take a break. But I'll tell you this: I am a firm believer, and some of these systems that are out there, self-watering pots, sort of things like that, where there's a reservoir of water and keeps the plant constantly wet. And sometimes that works for some plants, but most plants are not going to like those conditions. And I would suggest, Phil, that you don't fill that reservoir, that you treat those containers just like a pot and water them so that the water goes right through and into the reservoir. Empty the reservoir frequently to make sure the plant never sits in water. Would you? I'm not.
Yeah, water from the top.
Water from the top. I would water from the top, Phil.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's fine. I know you got to rush off there, but overall, they're a pretty good unit. With the if you pull the lid down, will it impede the growth if the sun can't get in?
Well, you want to keep it open in the daytime and close it at night.
Is it outside or inside?
Outside.
Yeah, so that's what you do. Is this what Don was saying? It's open in the day and closed at night.
Yep.
Okie doke. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Phil, thanks. Have fun with that.
Good luck.
Okay. Bye-bye.
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 And we're going to have to take the short break. We've got a caller waiting on the line. We want to say we want you to join us, but we're going to take a short break first. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We're back with you on a sunny Saturday morning, and it is beautiful out there. I can't wait to get back out in the garden today. We have joining us Linda. Good morning, Linda. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, guys. I just have a quick question regarding snow peas. Do you think it's okay to plant them out in the ground now, even though we're getting down to like -2 at night?
Oh, fine.
The seeds.
Plant your peas right now.
Yep.
That could have been our tip of the week. Yep. Get your peas in.
They're a cold crop. They like cool temperatures. You're good to go. If you want to speed them up a bit, put a little bit of plastic over them just to warm the earth up a bit more, and that gets them going faster, but they're good at
Also, I'll just step in here too. The birds love them as they're germinating, so you might want to get a little screening over top just to stop the birds. The quail in particular love those things. And the sparrows. Sparrows, yeah. House sparrows.
Right. And the other question is in regards to the inoculant. Is that necessary?
It's not really necessary. Okay. It's helpful, but it's not really necessary.
Okay.
I've had peas and beans every year. I rotate those crops every year as well, and I've never used it myself. But I do know a lot of people who do use it, and they swear by it. And so I think it's worth a try. It's got to help a little bit, for sure.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate your call.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Okay.
And I might just mention a couple things. Somebody did call in regards to the Whopper tomatoes and where they could get them. And so if somebody does know if there's a local business somewhere here in the Okanagan that has them, the Whopper tomatoes, they're actually a Parks Whopper, and that means that probably comes from Park Seed Company. So what I would do is I would go to the Park Seed Company and get those seeds, get them sent to you, and then you're good to go. Planting tomatoes right up to the 15th of April is perfectly acceptable for this climate. So actually seeding them then is fine, and they'll still mature and do their thing.
Yep.
Yeah, they're a good one.
Okay. Now, I have a question. Somebody called in as well, and it's Vicky. She's had a question here. Doesn't really want to come on air, and that's fine, Vicky. That's okay, because we love you anyway. Wondering where to get a tropical called Red Emperor Ginger. Now, I haven't researched it at all. I don't know what Red Emperor Ginger is. There's so many gingers out there. If it is a true ginger, there's many, many different gingers out there. Red Emperor would be a beauty.
If
sounds
it's a flowering one.
The flowering ginger, yeah.
Could be, yeah. Or maybe it's one that has red stems. That's a good question.
Vicky, if you're listening, I will do a little bit of research on that, see if we can locate something like that. I think there's several varieties of ginger at the greenery over the spring growing season. Ginger is a great tropical plant to have. I've got one. I can tell you this, Ken, very, very interesting about my ginger plant, and I got it from my cousin Ross McLeod. This ginger, when I don't give, it seemingly almost likes to be constantly wet. Mm-hmm. The leaves will fold up like a prayer plant. Maranta, it will just do this, and it'll look like something's wrong with this plant. And yet I felt the pot, and had some weight to it. It wasn't like dry. But I thought, well, let's give it a shot. That's what you always do. You give it a good soaking.
If in doubt,
it just popped right back. So I knew that it wasn't a root disease. It just popped right back and so now I'm watering that ginger plant more frequently than just about anything else in the greenhouse, and it's staying nice. So that might be, I don't know, that's with all ginger varieties or species, but that one for sure reacts that way. And another thing on watering, we're talking Tradescantia, the wandering Jew family, and lots of different Tradescantias out there. We've got two of them sitting right here in the studio. We're very lucky, Ken.
And that red emperor ginger is one of the hardier varieties.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure if it's grown for its edibility, but just beautiful flowers, and they are herbaceous, so they die down, and they grow in really poor soils. They're really tough. So good variety, good question. I would check at the greenery, I guess, first, but check at the local garden centers. And you never know. And I would even try that one just to see, if you had a warm location in your yard, you might be able to get it to come through the winters.
She saw it in an article way back in 2009 by Norman Winters. So it is out there. So that good luck on that, Vicki. I'll do a little bit of research too and see if we can locate something like that. But just keep asking. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Now, on the watering, like I was saying, my ginger plant that I have, the one ginger I have, I soak it and it comes back. I'll tell you what doesn't want too much water. It's Tradescantias. Yep. You definitely can overwater them, and they will rot in a blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. And so you want to let them go dry.
They
however,
like that nice porous soil, right?
However, I have 3 or 4 hanging plants that I put up in my greenhouse, small greenhouse. So those plants are like right in front of the heater. Mm-hmm. The blast of heat comes into them when it comes on, right? I hang those beautiful variegated spider plants that you gave me.
Yeah.
And another spider plant that I have. And I hung my nanook up there. Mm-hmm. Donna went in there and one day, and she said, "Oh, Dawn, you better come and see this. This is not looking good." This poor devil was up there right in the blast of heat. It was literally hanging in shreds.
Which one?
The nanook.
Oh, the nanook.
And it was hanging in shreds, and all the stems were necrotic. They were all dead, but the end was alive because, it likes to be on the dry side. So the ends were dry. That's where these cuttings came from.
Oh.
I cut the ends off and rooted the cutting.
And what happened to the spider plants?
The spider plants got
survived?
through okay. They got through okay. And they were further away. This nanook was right in front of the heater. So it was probably...
Spider plants are sensitive to drying out. That's why their leaves go brown all the time.
Well, that's I think the nanook protected the spider plants for some reason. Anyway, so I took the plant down, of course, made the cuttings, and I cut it right back to the base, and it was they were rotting at the base, even though it was a drought problem. They were rotting. So I cleaned it all up, put it on the bench, soaked it. I soaked it, and now. Nice. I got
now you let it dry out.
Now I let it dry out. I got 3 or 4 inches of new growth on there. I saved its neck.
Awesome.
Well, Donna saved its neck, but I did the process.
Yeah, you hung it up out of sight, out of mind.
Yep. And you got to be careful. And a lot of my plants in the greenhouse can go for days, months without water. They're tropical. They're succulent. I've got a big, huge jade in the corner that I bet you I've
But
watered
this
it. I
beautiful
might have
sun
watered
out
it
there.
once or twice. Yeah.
Oh, it's
now
getting
I'll get
hot.
in with the open hose
Just
with
so
a
good.
water breaker on it, and just, well, I still have to be careful. There's some things that don't want more water.
Yeah.
Like my little Operculicaria decarii, that little Madagascar plant that I have.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to be overwatered, period.
Nope.
We're going to take a short break, folks. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're having a good time. The sun's coming out. I'm sure that a lot of you are going out in the garden today and doing a little cleanup. Be careful where you walk.
Oh, yeah. Walk
coming
softly.
up. My garlic's poking up. Lots of stuff coming up. So you don't want to be walking on things like that. And so we invite your calls. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you, and we've got Ken going to talk about his webinars quickly here before we go to the phone lines.
Yeah, absolutely. We are doing webinars like we do each weekend. And this weekend is fruit trees, all about fruit trees at 1 p.m. And it's a webinar, so you can just watch it from home. It's about an hour and a half long. That's a typical webinar. And we're going to cover everything you need to know about fruit trees, even some pruning and all that stuff. That's at 1 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, we're doing our water features session, which starts at 3, about an hour and a bit long. And that is that's a real need to know if you're either going to build one, or if you have one, or if you inherited one and you want to know what to do with it. Well, this is the opportunity. So you just go to growercoach.com and just click on the learning button up in the left-hand side. You can kind of figure your way through there, and you can just click on the session that you want. And we just email you a connection, and right about 1 o'clock, you just click on that, and you're on, and you can watch the webinar. And it's they're typically pretty fascinating. We had a really great crew last week. We were talking about vegetable gardens and and composting and all kinds of things. Each week we do different sessions. So we got lots more coming down the pipes here, the month of March into April, and potentially even into May. So there you go. GrowerCoach.com.
That's easy to do. Just easy peasy.
Super
and people are
easy.
getting really onto this, Ken. I'm speaking next week at a group.
Yep.
And I'm doing it as you know, I'm going to do it from my greenhouse, so I'll have a little backdrop.
Nice.
Just speaking for a short time, but it's the new way. Same with going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor anymore. You just phone them, or you just go online. Anyway, we've got to go back to the phone lines here. We've got Bruce. Good morning, Bruce.
Hello.
Yes.
There you are.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is about growing wild huckleberries. Have you ever tried it? I live way up Trepanier Road, so I'm up quite high in the Alpine, which I think that's kind of a natural place for huckleberries. My understanding is it takes a long time for them to grow, and you have to have snow to protect them in the winter, and I have that too. So, any ideas?
Yeah, it's the whole thing is getting the plants and getting the varieties. And we do have a lot of these that we would call like sort of semi-native blueberries, or a blueberry family. When you go to garden centers, you'll see some of them. They're marked either northern or usually they'll have the word northern in their name. And these are sometimes derivatives. They're not the actual regular huckleberry variety that we find like in rainier climates. But that's a good starting point, because those plants will adapt and be similar. So, I would try some of those for quick and easy access. And they're short. They're low bush blueberries, so they typically only get to about 2 feet high or so. And do you have access to some of the plants?
Well, I know lots of people in the interior around the Cascar area. They go huckleberry picking all the time, and you could get seeds easily.
Yeah.
And then just start, an experiment, I suppose. Yeah. But it takes
probably about 3 or 4 years to get a plant that's of decent size. And that might be where it's easier to, like I say, just to get going right away, is try some of these ones that are sold at the garden centers, because you can buy a plant that's about 3 or 4 years old, like in a 1-gallon pot. Just make sure that, like I say, that it has the word northern in their name, and they're shorter varieties. They don't get very tall, and they're very closely related. and those will grow in the exact same conditions. But they all, if they had it their way, they would live up in Salmon Arm where it rains a lot. So depending where you're at, you might be in a little bit more of a rain belt. You probably get more rain than we do down the valley. And, I would give it a try for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You betcha. Thanks for the call.
Yep, thanks for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
And just to add to that a little bit, I just had a look here, and it says the small round berries resemble blueberries. In fact, some parts of the United States, huckleberries might be called blueberries, and blueberries might be called huckleberries. Mm-hmm. And they said they're not the same fruit, though. The various species of huckleberries range in color from bright red to dark purple and to blue. Mm-hmm. I think if Bruce is used to a certain berry from the wild that they've been picking down there in the Kootenays, then perhaps getting some seed, getting some young seedlings, some plants or something dug out, and bring them up and try them. And then he's going to get what he's looking for, because there's so much ambiguity out there.
And that's why you need to have the botanical name, because the huckleberry is a common name. Yeah. And so when you go to the U.S., there's lots of different types of huckleberries. Whereas when you're from British Columbia, we grow, it's the native plants that grow out in the bush. Mm-hmm. And if they're Vaccinium family, that's what we need to know. Is we need to know what is the botanical name, and that way you can nail it down. You know exactly what you're getting. And so that'd be the first thing, is you would research the native varieties and try to get those botanical names, and that gets you right out of the gate right away.
And Bruce, if you're listening, I might be able to help you further once I'm in my office, because I do have the plants of the Southern Interior, Native Plants of the Southern Interior book, which is a fabulous book. I use it all the time. And I can just check out the huckleberry. I might find a botanical name for you from that. And then you can then when you're looking around at nurseries and that, so you can just kind of know a little bit more about what you're doing. Appreciate the call. Now, we've got another some folks here phoning up. Radish, taproot, big, long greens, no bulb on the radish. Well, we have all found this, and I was trying to grow radishes for years in my raised beds. Wasn't working. So I brought some seeds in from Stokes, and I've had tremendous success with them. I can't remember the darn name. I'd have to look up and see what those radish varieties were, but I know that I've got the seed at home. So whoever it is, I guess it's it might be Margaret that's asking this question. And if it is, give me a call at home, Margaret, anytime. I'm in the book. I'm the only person in this building that's still in the book.
Yeah.
But
and remember to check on any of the plants that you're growing. If you're growing in the Okanagan, we are a desert situation. We're much warmer than most climates. Yep. Even though we're cold in the winter, we're warm in the summer, and the radishes don't like that.
They're cool.
They like the cool conditions. They want to be out right now.
Yeah, I'm putting radishes in probably this week.
Yeah, this weekend would be great. But the whole thing there is when you buy them, you got to read up on them and see which varieties are heat resistant. And I bought some recently, and they definitely say right on it, these are for warmer climates. The one called Chariot, I think, is one that's a little bit warmer.
That's one of the ones I've grown.
Yeah, it's really good varieties. So
Ken and Margaret's also wondering about what vegetable seeds do not do well keeping them over the winter. Vegetable seeds. Well, it depends on where you're keeping them. Yeah. It also depends on what it is. Like we found over the years, onions just don't hold up. Onion seed tends to, when you got a year-old onion seed, you don't use it unless
the percentage of viable seeds drops
really
off.
Drops.
But keeping them in proper cold storage, though, would be. I wonder if that would help.
Well, Tupperware containers for seeds are one of the best things. We used to keep a lot of our seeds right in the freezer. And so some of them do well doing that. They suspended animation in the freezer kind of thing. Even tomatoes and peppers we kept in the freezer, Ken, and they seem to come through. Because, I mean, we had lots of seed. Remember the seeds we had at the garden center? I mean, there's a freezer full of seeds. And we would reuse them as much as we could. We tried to eliminate some of the waste.
Do a quick germination test, and you always just take 10 seeds, and you can test them whichever way you like. Sometimes a sinking test, stir them into a glass of water, and then however many sink are good. The ones that float are bad. Then you can look at the percentage, because if it's 10 seeds and 4 die, then you've got 60% good seed, and so on. And you can also grow those in wet paper towels and germinate them and all that stuff. And if you start with 10 and 2 don't make it, well, you've got 80%. You're good to go. So there's all these things are really quick ways to check your seed to see if it's viable. And it's pretty
well.
Pretty,
and speaking of radishes, one of my stories that I tell over the years, when I first started working with Dad in the 60s, we found a pat. My grandfather died in 49. No, 52. Sorry, 1952. So in the 60s, he was only gone 10 years. I mean, I think back now. I think, holy mackerel, Dad had only lost his father 10 years before I was 12. I'm 12 years old, and here he is. So anyway, I found this big package of forcing radish seeds. They were from Stokes, and it said forcing radishes, and it was a variety on there. I can't remember what it was. So just for fun, I threw a few in, and they germinated. And they're at this point in time, they're got to be at least 10 years old or 12 years old.
Yep.
I did that every once in a while through the 60s and into the 70s. When I came back from Bermuda, I still, and I every once in a while, just in the spring, I didn't grow them to fruition. I just wanted to see if they germinated, see the viability of them, and they all 100% germination, right? So my father-in-law, Donna's dad, which I love him dearly. Now he's passed away, so we can talk about him. Pete came in to work with us in the 70s, and he was one of these cleaner uppers.
Yep.
Like he didn't like to see old stuff sitting around. I mean, he grew up. You want to keep the place clean, keep it tidy, neat, and whatever. He threw out my grandfather's radish seeds, Ken, because they were old and decrepit looking, and he threw that package out. I would still be doing that germination test today with my grandfather's radish, because it was a big pack. It was a big package of seeds.
Yep.
I'd still be doing it today if I hadn't got thrown.
You would need that big sign on it: "Do not throw out."
That's right. So if you're listening, Pete, between my dad's radish seed, my grandfather's radish seeds, and Dr. Rankin, Mrs. Rankin's begonia tubers that he threw out, because we stored Mrs. Rankin's begonia tubers every year for her. And this is Dr. Rankin and Mrs. Rankin out in the Mission. And they came in, they were the size of saucers, Ken. They were huge, thick begonia tubers, right?
Wow. Yep.
And we stored them, and they were just in a box under a bench. Pete threw them out.
Oh,
they just looked like nothing, right?
Yep.
So he threw them out, cleaned up, threw them out. Oh, poor Mrs. Rankin. She'd had those for years, and they'd grown into these big, huge things, and we were storing them for her every year. Anyway, It is what it is. We're not going to dwell on things.
No, that's the way it goes.
Pete, rest in peace, buddy. Yep. We're gonna say we got one more break to do here, boys and girls, and it's 250-862-2525 to get to us after we come back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you on this beautiful Saturday morning. I am just so delighted to be here. It's spring is around the corner. You can tell the excitement's in the air, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've got to talk to Alan, though. Good morning, Alan.
Hello.
Hello,
Good
Alan.
morning. Yep. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Great show.
Thanks.
In our backyard, we have an amazing elderberry tree. And last fall, I harvested a bunch of seeds. And I have a project going. I'm wondering, trying to get these seeds to grow. How do you do it? What's the trick to it?
Well, with elderberry seeds, they do grow naturally, meaning that when the seeds hit the ground, and then they have to sit over winter in the ground or on the ground, and then they germinate in the spring. And so that's how they grow. Keeping in mind that elderberries will, especially these hybrids that we have, we have all these really cool looking ones with purple leaves and all kinds. There's a lot of different types of elderberries, but they don't come true to seed. So you get something slightly different from each seedling because there's genetic variability. So if you had a tree that had purple leaves and you got some of the seeds to grow, they would probably be maybe green color or maybe maybe a lighter purple, or the leaf could be a little different. So you might get something unique, which is kind of cool. But I've grown the green varieties, which are more grown for their fruit, the green-leafed ones. Yeah. Bigger, fatter fruit, and really delicious to eat. And those ones grow relatively easily from seed. But that's the thing, is that you take the berries and you sort of smush them into the ground somewhere near the plant and leave them. You have to do that in the late summer, so they get in contact with the earth, and then they go right through the winter, and then they shoot up in the spring, these tiny little plants. And you can identify them, and you can dig them out and put them into pots or move them around, and you can grow them on and see what you get.
And Alan, to avoid the problem of not getting the same variety, if you have a variety of elderberry that you want to have cloned, then you might try vegetative cuttings, right, Ken?
Yep.
I think a vegetative cutting, just like we do grapes in the spring, would work.
Okay.
Yeah. So taking tip shoots, a little bit of older wood with some new wood starting on it, but just when they start to grow, they get so soft and lush that they just melt if they don't have roots. So it's a bit of a challenge, but hey, it's always it's fun to try.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Right now I'm rooting grapes. I'm rooting Acuba. I'm rooting my Prunus rainvanii, the laurel,
Russian laurel,
and various other plants that I'm rooting at this time of year. And you might try, if you want to give me a call at any time. I'm in the book, and give me a call, and we can chat on just exactly. If we had more time today, I'd be explaining it right now. But bottom heat, top cool. That's the key word with those woody cuttings. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Appreciate
for calling.
the call very much.
Bye-bye. Yeah, and I might just mention just right away, just real quick, I just want to say thank you to everybody out there. I got so many great birthday wishes last week. It was just a wonderful thing, and really, really appreciated that. And also, lots of people are tuning into the YouTube channel, so Grower Coach on YouTube, and they've been subscribing and signing up, and it's just fabulous.
Ken, congratulations.
Trying to launch that site and get it roaring along, and we're looking for people to be watching the videos and getting some hours of viewing. So all that stuff is great, and I sure appreciate it.
Right on, Ken. We'll keep pushing for that because it's a valuable site, and you can join all the different sites online that are so popular, and you should be one of the popular ones too. Now, there was something I was going to say, I can't remember what it was. Isn't that interesting how you forget?
That happens from time to time. It happens to me several times a day.
Yeah. Well, I did put down Dr. Shigo's tree pithy points from number 60 to number 68. And there's a whole slew of them there that were very interesting. I was going to do that, but I think we're going to leave that for next week because we're kind of getting short on time here. And do we have Addie? Yeah. Addie, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, Don and Ken. How are the flower pot men?
We're good. Don and Ken.
Okay, I have a problem. I noticed the tree that I'm talking about is about 2.5 years old, and it blooms yellow flowers, tiny flowers during the summer. And this year, during the winter, with all the bad winds that we've had, it has kind of directionally bent the tree over.
Sounds like a Colereteria paniculata, the golden rain tree, blooming yellow in the summer.
Yes.
Very nice tree. They can be a little weak in the waist, and they can bend over. So you may want to do some support there. You don't want to support them too much or for too long because the actual movement of that tree strengthens the wood at the base of the tree. If a tree is staked and supported where it can't move at all, then it becomes even more of an issue. So you want to support it, but you want to make the support such that it still can move in the wind. Okay?
Okay.
So you
probably, but it's leaning over so much. Let's say, I will say like 2 o'clock. Like it's from the stem down to like where
2 o'clock,
where it would, like it would lean quite a bit over. And I'm just wondering, would it have come up from the root as well? It doesn't look like it, but could that have happened?
It's possible, but I think this is an opportunity for you maybe can you send us a picture of that? Because
Okay.
it sounds like a very unique sort of situation, and I think it requires us to look at it, because we could probably make a much better suggestion as to how to revive that thing. They are a very good tree. They're cool. They're really interesting. And how many trees bloom in the middle of summer, right?
Yeah.
Not many.
Well, that's just it. And you know what? And that's why we got it, is because it was so interesting. And it was beautiful last year. And then the year before was just a new one. So like I said, it's 2.5 years old now, and I would like it to bloom this summer. So I don't want to do anything to it that's going to hinder it or, make it sort of not want to.
I think, Addie, the Ken is absolutely right. To really give you good advice, we should see a picture of it. But I'm visualizing this thing. They do, their trunks can get fairly whippy, and you may want to just take a guy wire of some sort, or a guy string or rope or whatever, and bring it back into a good position. But as I say, don't totally stake it so that it can't move. You want to be able to let it move in the wind, because that's going to strengthen its base.
Yeah, because that's where the wind tunnel is. So, I mean, even the summer winds are bad, but the winter winds this year were just horrible. They are absolutely horrible.
And probably a snow load, too. Probably some snow load.
Yeah, it was, because it's so full that it held the snow.
Yeah, you got her.
Okay, thank you very much,
Addie,
guys. I will send you a picture.
You bet. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Have a great weekend.
Addie.
You betcha. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And, Ken, that will be our last call of the day. We appreciate all the callers. It was a great day today, and a wonderful day to be out in the garden. Get out there and enjoy the outdoors. And it's safe to be out there. That's a beautiful thing about this COVID thing. I mean, it's safe to be out in your yard and enjoying it. Get away from the couch and
fresh air.
Have a look around, but be very careful when you're walking through the,
you have to
tiptoe
through the tulips.
Tiptoe through the tulips, as Ken would often say. Now, we're going to do those 60 to 68 Shigo moments next week. I've got them on here, and I won't rub them out. We're going to do that next week, so stay tuned for that. Another Dan Bruce botanist from Scotland, and talking about fin tree and whatnot. Lots going on again next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Tell your friends. And my tip of the week is, I'm going to suggest it's time to uncover your hybrid tea roses. I may get into trouble. However, I'm going to suggest taking the covering off. Leaving it on and having them grow underneath the covering is not a good thing either. So there you go.
Get them used to the outside air in the cold.
Yep. My plant of the week is Tradescantia zebrina Nanook is the name of mine.
I love it.
And Ken has just given me gift. We've exchanged gifts this morning of 2 Tradescantias.
Very nice. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week. My tip of the week is that it's time to spray your tulips with some deer repellent. So they're just shooting up out of the ground. Before even the flower emerges, you give them a little shot of that. The deer repellents have a strong odor. There's several different brands on the market. You can check it out. Give them a shot, and that'll keep the deer from eating them as they're shooting up and getting ready to do their thing. All right, my plant of the week was the peperomia group. The whole family of peperomias. They're house plants, and they're a beautiful plant. Easy to grow. There's over 1,000 species of them. They're just a great one, and very easy, and becoming super popular as well. So, good plant. Give it a try. And that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com. Check out our webinars. They happen almost every weekend. And today is fruit trees. First at 1 o'clock, and then at 3 o'clock today is the water features. All about your pond.
That's exciting, Ken. Water features are very calming, and it's very nice. I have one that we found in Pompeii when Donna and I were in Italy, and we brought it home, snuck it home, so don't tell anybody. My Shigo quote of the week this week is, consider the birds who walked to a flying school workshop and then walked home. Think about that. That was a deep, wise thing for Alex Shigo to say. Wow. And on that note, we will be back next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.